She used her feet to make me obey. No words needed. Welcome to Goddess Foot Confessions. Let's uncover what really happened. The moonlight filtered softly through the thin curtains, casting gentle shadows across the room. I pulled the blanket up around me, welcoming its warmth as my tired body began to relax. Life had been calm lately, a welcome reprieve after the storms of the past year. Alex, now nearly 20, had been my constant through it all. Even though he was growing into a man, we remained incredibly close. He was still the caring, thoughtful boy I'd always known, but sometimes I worried he carried more responsibility than anyone his age should. I smiled quietly, thinking of him, intelligent, kind-hearted, always putting others first. He was the light of my life. But tonight, exhaustion held me captive. My eyelids felt heavy, the weight of the week pressing down on me. Then, out of nowhere, a soft knock echoed at the door. I stirred, unsure if it was a dream at first. Then, the knock came again, more distinct this time. Fully awake now, I heard Alex's quiet voice, barely above a whisper, "Mom?" Blinking against the darkness, I made out the outline of his figure in the hallway light. Sitting up, I rubbed my eyes and asked gently, "What's wrong, Alex?" He hesitated, unsure. The unease in the air was palpable. "I can't sleep," he admitted softly, eyes cast downward as he stood near the bed. My heart tightened at the concern I felt for him. Since the divorce, Alex had struggled with restless nights on occasion, but he rarely opened up. Deep down, I knew his father's absence weighed heavily on him. I patted the bed beside me. "Come here. You can stay with me tonight if you want." He hesitated a moment longer, then without another word, he climbed in and lay beside me, facing me on his side. His tired eyes betrayed a vulnerability unusual for him. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked softly. He shook his head, dark hair falling over his eyes. "No, I just wanted to be close to you." A wave of emotion swelled inside me. It had been a long time since Alex sought closeness like this, the way he had as a child. I reached out, brushing the hair from his forehead, offering a reassuring smile. "That's okay," I whispered, my hand resting gently on his shoulder. "You can stay as long as you need." He smiled faintly in return, but I sensed there was more on his mind, something he wasn't ready to share. So I didn't press. Instead, I lay back down, pulling the blanket over us both. Silence settled around us, comforting, familiar. We lay there in the quiet calm of the night, wrapped in the stillness together. Alex's breathing slowed, and I thought he had finally fallen asleep. But just as I was drifting off myself, he spoke again, so softly I almost missed it. "Mom, do you ever miss him?" The question caught me off guard. I knew he meant his father. It was a question I had avoided for years, unsure how to answer. "I do sometimes," I admitted quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. But things weren't good between us. Alex nodded, the darkness swallowing his face, but I could tell he wanted to know more, wanted to understand how I felt. "Do you ever think things could have been different?" he asked. I sighed deeply, the weight of old regrets pressing on my chest. "Maybe, but we can't change what happened. All we can do is move forward." He seemed lost in thought, his fingers absently playing with the edge of the blanket. Then, in a voice barely above a murmur, he said, "I guess I just wonder if maybe I could have done something differently, if I had been better." His words pierced my heart like a dagger. He wasn't responsible for what had happened, yet he carried that burden of guilt as if it were his fault. I sat up and turned to face him, voice firm and full of conviction. "No, Alex, this wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong." He looked away, whispering, "Sometimes it feels like if I had been better, maybe Dad wouldn't have left." Tears welled in my eyes. Without hesitation, I wrapped my arms around him, holding him tightly. He resisted for a moment, then gave in, burying his face in my shoulder. "Listen to me, Alex," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "Your dad made his own choices. It had nothing to do with you. It was his decision, and it was never your responsibility." I held him tighter, my heart aching for the years of pain he had carried alone. "You've always been more than enough for me, Alex," I whispered. "You're everything to me." He nodded against my shoulder, but I could still feel the weight of years of unspoken pain and guilt. We held each other close, the silence between us a strange comfort. Gradually, his body relaxed, breathing deepened, and peaceful sleep claimed him. I stayed awake, holding him, overwhelmed by love and protectiveness. In that quiet moment, I realized just how much we had both grown, how deeply we still needed each other. As Alex slept soundly beside me, his chest rising and falling in a peaceful rhythm, my mind was far from quiet. Memories and emotions swirled together in the darkness. His presence was soothing, yet beneath that calm, an unexpected feeling stirred, something deeper than the usual bond between mother and son. It felt like an intimate connection, more profound than anything I had expected. A subtle warmth spread through my chest, undeniable and strange. I wasn't sure what it meant, but it refused to be ignored. If you're still watching and this story is moving you, drop a 1 in the comments. I'd love to know you're still here with me. I try to focus on his breathing, the gentle sound of him nestled close, but the feeling lingered, a whisper in the back of my mind urging me to acknowledge it, even though I wasn't ready to face what it was. Morning came too quickly. Soft light crept through the curtains, bathing the room in a gentle glow. Alex lay peaceful beside me, as if the weight of the night had lifted from his shoulders. I studied his relaxed face, my heart swelling with a familiar love, the maternal kind I'd always known. But beneath that affection was something new, unfamiliar, an undercurrent pulling me closer to him, a connection I hadn't expected. Careful not to disturb him, I slipped out of bed and made my way downstairs. The sound of my footsteps echoed softly in the still house. Making breakfast grounded me, a comforting routine in a world suddenly feeling uncertain. But even as I moved through the kitchen, my thoughts drifted back to our conversation the night before. Alex had always been sensitive, but I hadn't fully realized the depth of his pain, the guilt and burdens he carried alone. It wasn't just his words that stayed with me. It was the vulnerability in his eyes, the way he reached for comfort. The feeling stirred something inside me too, something more than just motherly instinct. I tried to push the thoughts aside, telling myself he was just my son. But the feeling wouldn't go away, a whisper that something between us was shifting, something unspoken but real. Alex finally stirred, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. His hair was tousled, his youthful face soft with the remnants of adolescence. But there was a new maturity in his gaze, a hint of the man he was becoming. I smiled warmly at him, trying to mask the swirl of emotions still churning inside me. "Morning, sleepyhead," I said cheerfully, placing a plate of pancakes in front of him. "Morning," he mumbled, settling into his chair and immediately digging in. We ate in comfortable silence, the morning light flooding the kitchen, soft and peaceful. Occasionally, I caught his eyes on me, but I chose not to meet his gaze. Not yet. He seemed more himself today, the fragile piece we'd found still intact, and I didn't want to disrupt it. Finally, he broke the silence. His voice was serious, filled with sincerity. "Thanks for last night, Mom. I needed that." His vulnerability caught me off guard. I hadn't expected him to open up so soon. "You never have to thank me, Alex," I replied softly, my heart swelling with love. "I'll always be here for you, no matter what." He nodded, but his gaze didn't waver. There was an unspoken question there, a depth of feeling stretching beyond the mother-son bond. I wasn't sure how to answer that look. My heart pounded, sensing the subtle shift between us, the space between us charged with something new. His eyes held a yearning, a longing for something more. And if I was honest, I felt it too, a deep stirring I hadn't understood until now. After breakfast, Alex lingered by the kitchen counter, tracing invisible patterns on the surface with his fingers. There was a restlessness about him, something unspoken that I couldn't quite place. "Do you ever think things could have been different?" he asked quietly, his voice heavy with unsaid emotions. I sighed, feeling the weight of past regrets settle over me again. "Maybe," I said softly, "but we can't change what happened. All we can do is try to move forward." He nodded, eyes fixed on the restless movement of his fingers. "Sometimes I wonder if I could have done something been better, he murmured, barely audible, full of guilt and self-reproach. His words hit me like a sharp pang in the chest. I reached out, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder and pulling him into an embrace. "Alex, you didn't do anything wrong," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "None of this was your fault. You have to know that." He looked away, whispering again, "Sometimes it feels like if I'd been better, maybe Dad wouldn't have left." Tears sprang to my eyes. I held him even tighter as he buried his face in my shoulder. "Your father made his own choices," I said steadily. "They had nothing to do with you. You are, and always have been, more than enough." Slowly, his body relaxed into mine. The tension in his shoulders eased, and years of unspoken pain and guilt began to fade away in the quiet of that embrace. In that moment, I felt a familiar warmth rising again, a mixture of relief, love, and something deeper, something different from before. The bond we shared was evolving, shifting into something neither of us had expected but both instinctively felt. That quiet embrace marked the beginning of something new, something uncharted and unknown. Neither of us fully understood what it meant yet, but deep inside, we both felt a shift. For now, I held him close, cherishing the moment without asking questions. What would come next was uncertain, but I was ready to face it with him, whatever this new bond meant. I slipped quietly out of bed, careful not to disturb Alex's peaceful slumber. The soft sound of my footsteps on the stairs echoed in the still house. Downstairs, the familiar routine of preparing breakfast grounded me. Flipping pancakes, setting the table. Normalcy in a world that suddenly felt so different. My thoughts drifted back to the night before. Alex had always been sensitive, but I hadn't realized just how deeply his father's absence had affected him. The weight of guilt he carried, the burdens he hid, pressed heavily on my heart. But it wasn't only the conversation that stayed with me. It was the way he looked at me, vulnerable, seeking comfort, and the way it stirred something in me too. Something more than maternal instinct. I tried to push those thoughts aside. He was my son. That was all. But the feeling lingered, a quiet whisper I couldn't ignore, telling me something had shifted between us. Something unspoken but real. Later that morning, Alex emerged from his room, hair tousled and eyes still heavy with sleep. Despite the remnants of youth in his face, there was a new maturity in his gaze, a quiet strength shaped by the struggles he'd endured. I greeted him warmly, tried to keep my own swirling emotions hidden. "Morning, sleepyhead," I said cheerfully, placing a plate of pancakes in front of him. He mumbled a soft reply, sinking into his chair and immediately digging in. We ate together in peaceful silence, sunlight pouring through the windows and casting a gentle glow over the kitchen. Every so often, I caught him looking at me, but I avoided meeting his eyes, still unsure how to face the subtle changes between us. Alex seemed more himself today, and the fragile peace we'd found the night before held steady. I didn't want to disturb it. Finally, he broke the silence. His voice was quiet but sincere. "Thanks for last night, Mom. I really needed that." His vulnerability surprised me, but I offered a soft smile. "You never have to thank me, Alex. I'll always be here for you." He nodded, but his gaze lingered, searching, almost questioning, as if trying to communicate something beyond words. That look sent a flutter through my heart. I knew things between us had changed. I felt it too, a deep longing that I hadn't yet fully understood. The day unfolded quietly, uneventfully on the surface. Alex retreated to his room, immersing himself in homework and video games. I busied myself with household chores, but a quiet tension hung in the air between us, a subtle energy neither of us dared to name. That unspoken connection from a night before lingered, shifting the space between us. It was intangible but undeniable, a new kind of closeness that transcended what we'd known before. As evening approached, I found myself thinking more and more about Alex, about how much he'd grown, how aware he was becoming of his own feelings and emotions. The distance, if there had ever been one, seemed to shrink overnight. The closeness we shared no longer felt like just that of mother and son. It was something deeper, something I couldn't yet define, but felt in every fiber of my being. That evening, we settled on the couch to watch a movie. The room was dimly lit, flickering images casting soft, dancing shadows on the walls. We didn't speak much. There was no need to. Simply being near each other was enough. As the movie played on, I became increasingly aware of how close we were sitting. Our arms brushed with every subtle shift, and my heart began to race with a quiet tension I couldn't ignore. Alex shifted closer, his arm gently brushing against mine again. This time, he didn't pull away. The warmth of his skin against mine sent a ripple of awareness through me, a sensation both familiar and exhilaratingly new. I glanced at him, and our eyes met. There was something different in his gaze, a newfound intensity that mirrored my own. Before I realized it, I reached out and took his hand in mine. Our fingers intertwined, his grip firm but gentle. He didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed my hand lightly, his thumb tracing slow, soothing circles on my skin. That simple gesture sent a shiver down my spine. We sat like that for a long moment, hands clasped in the dim light, silent but deeply connected. Something had shifted between us, something unspoken but undeniable. A turning point, a silent understanding that transcended the boundaries of our familial roles. The movie credits rolled, but neither of us moved. I leaned my head against Alex's shoulder, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest as he breathed. His warmth surrounded me, profound and comforting. It was a silent acknowledgement of the connection blooming between us, tender, electric, and real. "Mom," Alex whispered, his voice barely audible but filled with sincerity. "I'm really glad you're here." His words resonated deeply within me. I was glad too, for this unexpected closeness, this uncharted territory we had ventured into together. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt truly alive. There was no confusion, no guilt, just the pure, undeniable truth of our love. It was a love born from years of shared experience, trust, and understanding, a bond that ran deeper than blood. It felt as natural as breathing, as inevitable as the sunrise. In that moment, I knew that whatever this was between us, we would navigate it together, no matter what lay ahead. The room was still, wrapped in the calm aftermath of our shared moment. The only sounds were the soft rhythm of our breaths and the crackling of the fire in the hearth. Shadows danced gently across the walls, painting a quiet, intimate scene. Alex finally shifted, pulling back just slightly. His eyes searched mine in the dim light, warm, open, and free of doubt. It was a kind of warmth only true intimacy could bring, one that went beyond physical closeness. It spoke to the very essence of who we were together. "Are we okay?" he asked softly, his voice barely more than a whisper, a gentle caress in the darkness. I nodded slowly, my throat tight, words caught somewhere deep inside. My heart swelled with an overwhelming wave of emotions too vast for language. My whole being trembled with feelings that went beyond words, unspoken truths, the weight of everything that had led to this moment. "Yeah," I whispered, my voice thick with meaning. "We're okay." The evening air was crisp and cool, a quiet contrast to the warmth that still lingered between us. We stepped out onto the back porch, the world outside seeming to pause alongside our fragile moment. The night sky stretched endlessly above, dotted with stars that shimmered softly, like scattered diamonds against the velvety darkness. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to breathe deeply, feeling the weight of everything I carried begin to lift. It wasn't just physical relief. It was as if the emotional burdens I had borne for so long were finally loosening their grip. Words felt unnecessary. The tranquility of the night, the beauty surrounding us, and the simple act of being near Alex were enough. We sat in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't feel empty but full of unspoken understanding. His hand reached for mine, a gentle but certain touch that sent warmth spreading through me like wildfire. The sensation was intoxicating, as if the very air around us was charged with an unseen force, drawing us closer together. I squeezed his hand softly, our fingers intertwining, a quiet affirmation of the bond growing between us. Above us, the stars shone down like silent witnesses to everything unfolding. Inside me, something stirred, a profound certainty that whatever came next, we would face it together. No matter the challenges, uncertainties, or judgments waiting ahead, we were strong enough. We were a team, connected in ways far beyond the physical, beyond what others might understand. As days turned into weeks, that intimacy deepened. It wasn't fleeting or superficial. It wove itself quietly and powerfully into every part of our lives. There were no grand declarations or labels, no attempts to define what we had. It simply was. It was in the way our eyes met across a room, in lingering touches, in moments when words felt unnecessary. With every passing day, the bond grew stronger, undeniable, and more present. The conflict I had once felt, the uncertainty weighing on my heart, slowly melted away. It was replaced by a profound sense of rightness. Whatever this was between us, it felt like the natural order of things. Alex wasn't just my son anymore. He had become so much more. My partner, my confidant, my lover. The transformation in our relationship wasn't sudden. It unfolded quietly, like the first hints of dawn after a long, dark night. It wasn't just about desire or passion. It was something deeper, more complex. A connection that transcended labels and definitions. One rainy afternoon in late autumn, the full weight of my feelings for Alex became undeniable. The sky was heavy with storm clouds, a soft gray blanket pressing down on the world outside. Rain fell in steady sheets, tapping gently against the windows in a soothing, rhythmic pattern. Inside, the warmth of the fire crackled cheerily in the hearth, casting a golden glow that stretched long shadows across the room. Alex and I were curled up together on the couch, wrapped in a cozy blanket. Our bodies pressed close, the warmth of the fire mixing with the quiet closeness we shared. If you're still watching and this story has touched your heart, drop a 3 in the comments. I'd love to know you're here with me. I rested my head against the back of the couch, absent-mindedly running my fingers through his hair, savoring the sensation of being so close to someone who understood me like no one else ever had. Outside, the rain blurred the world, making everything feel distant, as if we were the only 2 people left in existence. Alex's breathing was steady, calm, and I could feel the subtle shift in the air between us, the unspoken understanding that something had changed. The connection we shared had deepened into something undeniable, something that felt as if it had always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. He lifted his head from my shoulder, his eyes meeting mine with a look that spoke volumes without words. The air between us hummed with the weight of our shared understanding. This is more than love, his eyes seemed to say. His eyes held a weight I could feel pressing against me, a quiet vulnerability I hadn't seen before. I held my breath, sensing that this moment, this admission, would change everything between us. "I love you," he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "Not just because you're my mom, but because of who you are, everything about you." His words crashed over me like a wave, filling the room with a warmth that seemed to erase all doubt and fear. I had known this moment was coming, had felt its presence lingering between us for some time. But hearing him say it aloud made everything more real, more tangible. I squeezed his hand, grounding myself in the steady pulse of his heartbeat beneath my fingers. "Alex," I whispered, my voice shaking with emotion. "I love you too. I've always loved you, but this is different." He searched my face, eyes wide with hope and fear. He looked for reassurance, for confirmation that I felt the same way. "I don't know what this means," I continued softly, reaching up to gently touch his cheek, "but I know I feel the same way. And it doesn't feel wrong to me. It feels right." A soft smile spread across his lips, relief flooding his expression. "I'm glad you feel that way," he whispered, voice filled with gratitude. "Because I don't know what I'd do if you didn't." I caressed his cheek gently, feeling the warmth beneath my fingertips. "We'll figure this out," I assured him, my voice calm and steady. For a long while, we sat there in silence. The only sounds a steady rhythm of our breathing and the crackling fire. We didn't need words. Everything we needed to say had already been said in those quiet moments. Slowly, Alex leaned in, his eyes locked onto mine with no rush or urgency, just a shared understanding of everything we had revealed. Then, gently and tenderly, he kissed me. It was a kiss weighted with the depth of our love, our longing, a kiss that spoke of all the feelings we held back for so long. When he pulled away, I saw the emotion flicker in his eyes, raw and deep, mirroring the turmoil inside me. It was as though we had crossed an invisible threshold, a point of no return. But instead of panic or doubt, a profound peace washed over me. There was certainty. This was where we were meant to be. This moment, this love felt right. Like everything had led us here, and now that we were, nothing else mattered. He pulled me closer, arms wrapping protectively around me, as if he too understood there was no turning back. Outside, the rain continued to fall softly against the windows, a lullaby that matched the rhythm of our hearts. The fire cast a warm, flickering glow over the room, shadows dancing around us as we held each other in silence. In that moment, with the storm outside and the warmth between us, I knew we would face whatever challenges came together. The world beyond felt distant, irrelevant. All that mattered was the quiet intimacy we shared. The rest of the evening faded into a gentle blur, soft and beautiful. There were no grand declarations, no urgent attempts to define what we had stepped into. Instead, there was only the subtlety of our touches, the quiet strength of our shared presence, and the tender whispers that passed between us like comforting reassurances. The weight of the future felt distant and irrelevant against the overwhelming reality of the love we were discovering. We didn't speak of what lay ahead or the complexities of this new bond. All that mattered was the connection, an intimacy both fleeting and infinite. Outside, the rain continued its steady serenade, as if the universe itself was mirroring the profound changes unfolding within us. Each drop tapped a gentle rhythm that echoed the steady pulse of our hearts. As I lay there, the enormity of what had shifted between us settled in my mind. It was almost impossible to comprehend how quickly our relationship had evolved. Alex, once the boy in my life, had grown into a man, someone whose presence felt as vital to me as the air I breathed. Over time, he had become more than just someone I could rely on. He was now someone I shared a connection with that defied any conventional understanding of love. It was unexpected, it was complex, and yet it felt inevitable, like two puzzle pieces finally clicking perfectly into place. As the hours grew late and the night deepened around us, Alex came to my room once more. This time, there was no hesitation in his movements, no uncertainty clouding the space between us. He climbed into bed beside me, his body warm and solid next to mine, his arms wrapped around me with overwhelming tenderness. But it wasn't the comforting embrace of a mother and son. No, it was the embrace of lovers, two souls intertwined by something far deeper than either of us had expected. I rested my head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, a symphony of love and contentment pulsing beneath the surface. Every breath he took, every beat of his heart, was a reminder that this was real. This was not a fleeting moment. It was a deep, abiding connection that filled me with a peace I hadn't known in years. It was as though I had spent my entire life searching for something I didn't even know I was missing. And now, in this moment, it was all here, complete and whole. Whatever this was, whatever it had become, I felt ready to embrace it. Alex and I had always shared a closeness, a bond that went deeper than most. But now, what we were was something far beyond just a mother and child. We were partners, confidants, lovers, two souls bound together by a love that transcended all boundaries, even those set by the world around us. The days that followed carried a strange mix of normalcy and newness. On the surface, life went on, work, routines, daily chores, but beneath it all, our bond was evolving in quiet, undeniable ways. We learned to navigate the subtle shifts between us, discovering how to hold space for each other without words. Small gestures became profound. A glance held a little longer, a gentle touch on the hand, shared silences filled with understanding. Outside opinions, societal rules, and whispered judgments were distant concerns, things we could neither ignore nor fully confront just yet. What mattered was the trust we were building, the honesty that allowed us to be ourselves without fear. There were moments of doubt, moments when the weight of what we were felt overwhelming. But each time, we found strength in one another. We were no longer just mother and son. We were something new, something complex, beautiful, and deeply human. I realized that love does not always follow the paths we expect. Sometimes it takes us to places we never imagined, testing us, challenging us, and ultimately teaching us who we truly are. And in Alex's arms, I found a peace and belonging I had long yearned for, a connection that defied explanation but felt entirely right. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in warm hues of orange and pink, Alex and I sat quietly on the porch. The world around us buzzed softly with the sounds of twilight, birds settling in for the night, distant laughter from neighbors, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. We didn't speak much. Words felt unnecessary. Instead, we shared a comfortable silence, one that spoke volumes. It was in these quiet moments that the depth of our connection was most palpable, a silent understanding that needed no explanation. Alex reached for my hand again, his fingers intertwining with mine naturally, effortlessly. That simple touch was a steady anchor, grounding me in the midst of all the swirling emotions. I looked into his eyes and saw reflected there the same mixture of hope, fear, love, and uncertainty that I felt inside. It was a delicate balance, fragile yet strong, like glass held carefully in both our hands. We both knew the challenges ahead wouldn't be easy. The world wasn't kind to those who step outside its rigid expectations, and our path was no exception. But as we sat side by side, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the darkening sky, I felt a quiet confidence growing within me. Together, we could face whatever came next, because we had each other, and sometimes that was enough. The days continued to pass, each one weaving our lives closer together in ways words couldn't fully capture. We moved through our routines with a newfound ease, the unspoken bond between us growing stronger with every shared glance and touch. I found myself watching Alex more often, studying the way his brow furrowed in concentration as he tackled his studies, the soft smile that played on his lips when he thought no one was watching. He was becoming the man he was meant to be, and I was quietly proud. Yet beneath the surface, there remained a tension, a delicate tightrope between what we felt and the world outside. The weight of secrecy pressed on us, reminding us of the boundaries society demanded we respect. Sometimes I wondered how long we could keep this delicate balance, this fragile harmony we'd created between love and fear. But for now, in these stolen moments, there was only us. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset, Alex leaned into me, his head resting against my shoulder. The simple act sent a shiver of warmth through my body, a reminder of how deeply intertwined our souls had become. I whispered softly, "Whatever comes, we face it together." He nodded, a silent promise passing between us. No matter the challenges, no matter the judgments, we were united. The following weeks were a quiet whirlwind of discovery and adjustment. Each day brought new layers to our relationship, moments of joy, confusion, and tenderness. We began creating our own language of gestures and glances, a secret code understood only by the two of us. A touch on the hand during a movie, a shared smile across a crowded room. These small acts became lifelines, reminding us of the unique bond we shared. Yet, beneath the comfort, there was an undercurrent of tension. We both wrestled with the enormity of what our connection meant, grappling with feelings that defied societal norms and personal expectations. Despite this, the trust between us grew. We became each other's refuge in a world that felt increasingly complicated and uncertain. One rainy afternoon, curled up on the couch wrapped in a soft blanket, the intimacy of the moment was palpable. The steady patter of rain against the windows created a soothing backdrop to our closeness. I absent-mindedly ran my fingers through Alex's hair, savoring the sensation of being so close, of knowing someone in ways no one else ever could. His eyes met mine, filled with unspoken understanding and a depth of emotion that words could never capture. It was in that quiet, electric moment that I truly understood. This connection was not just love. It was something deeper, a bond that had always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. The rain continued to fall softly outside, blurring the world into a quiet watercolor of grays and blues. Inside, the fire flickered warmly, casting a gentle glow over the room. Alex and I sat close together, wrapped in the cocoon of our shared space. The air between us hummed with unspoken truths, a silent acknowledgement of everything that had changed. He lifted his head from my shoulder, eyes locking with mine. There was a weight in his gaze, deep, raw, and full of emotion. "I love you," he whispered, voice trembling slightly. "Not just because you're my mom, but because of who you are." His words washed over me like a tide, filling the room with warmth and erasing all doubt. I reached out, gently cupping his cheek, feeling the heat of his skin beneath my fingertips. "I love you too," I said, my voice thick with feeling. "But this is different." He searched my face, seeking reassurance, hope, and a promise. "We'll figure this out," I whispered, wrapping him in my arms. For a long time, we simply held each other, the quiet rhythm of our breathing and the crackling fire the only sounds. In that stillness, we found peace, a fragile but powerful peace born from acceptance and love. Time seemed to slow as we settled deeper into our newfound connection. The world outside moved on, but within the walls of our home, everything had changed. We learned to navigate this new chapter without rushing, allowing our bond to grow naturally and gently. There were no grand proclamations, just quiet moments filled with understanding and acceptance. Every touch, every glance, every whispered word wove us closer together, a tapestry of shared emotions and unspoken promises. Yet, beneath the calm, there was an awareness of the challenges ahead. Society's expectations loomed, a shadow casting doubt on what we had. Still, we chose to focus on what mattered most, the love that had blossomed between us, unbound by convention or judgment. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, we sat hand in hand, watching the sky turn to shades of pink and purple. In that moment, I realized that no matter where this journey took us, we would face it side by side. Together, the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months. Our relationship, once fragile and uncertain, grew into a steady, unwavering force. We faced each new dawn together, embracing the love that had quietly but profoundly transformed our lives. There were challenges, moments of doubt, whispers of judgment, and the weight of a world that struggled to understand. But none of that could diminish what we shared. We built a sanctuary within our home, a place where vulnerability was met with compassion and love transcended all barriers. In the stillness of countless evenings, wrapped in each other's arms, I found a peace I had never known, a sense of belonging that went beyond blood and tradition. Our bond was no longer defined by roles or expectations. It was a connection forged in trust, passion, and unwavering devotion. As I looked into Alex's eyes, I saw not just my son, but my partner, my confidant, my lover, my heart. Whatever the future held, I knew one truth above all else. We would face it together, united and unbreakable. And in that, I found hope. Hope for a love that defied odds and an uncharted path that we would walk hand in hand.